really see it as a generational investment opportunity. And for investors, you can go back to the PC in the 80s, the internet in the 90s, cloud computing and mobile technology 10, 15 years ago. And we see AI as being at least as big as those fundamental shifts. So we're very excited about it.
One way to think about the impact of AI is the overall impact that it stands to have on the economy. There's lots of projections out there, but the one that I use is that it stands to create $10 trillion of opportunity, added GDP around the world. And that creates tremendous opportunity to find those pools of growth and invest in the right way to take advantage of it.
Where private capital and private equity in particular can play a helping hand is this is really a change management problem. Implementing AI in a big way can disrupt an existing business model. It can disrupt an employee structure. And so this combination of control-oriented private equity and AI-related transformations is, I think, a really interesting combination because you have the enabling technology ready to go and able to make significant change at companies. But the missing piece is really the day-to-day change management, which is what we in private equity do best.
If you froze AI right now and had no other innovation, there's tremendous latent potential just to use the technologies that have already come about with generative AI to drive years of transformation in business. But it's not static, it's moving fast. And so I think the challenge for business is to stay on top of that. That's where TPG comes in with the forward visibility, the insight, the connections into the tech ecosystem to understand where this is going and help provide that roadmap to navigate the transformation.
Today, we basically have three separate work streams that are working in parallel. We have where do we invest, what are the themes, and how do we find the best investment opportunities for the firm? How do we use AI for the benefit of our portfolio companies to help them both on the revenue and the cost side? And then the last is how do we use AI internally?
The real strength of TPG's approach is this ability to shape things from a thematic perspective. There's an amazing set of opportunities out there with AI. There's also a lot happening in AI and a lot of churn and some froth maybe in the AI market. So this disciplined, thematic-based approach, I think, is the right way to navigate through what's going to be a bit of a turbulent environment as we sort out the winners and losers in the AI future going forward.
Before we make any new investments in a space, we like to identify the themes that we're most interested in, and then we go and find the most interesting companies within those theme areas. We went through that process in AI earlier this year. We had what we called a themes day, where each of our investment platforms presented their most interesting ideas around AI. And as a leadership team, we pull that all together and distill that into kind of four meta themes that we're most interested in. And those four are vertical applications and data, cybersecurity, services transformations, and AI infrastructure.
This is the most exciting time that I've ever seen in technology because we're seeing the payoff from all this digital technology and computerization taking a new form around artificial intelligence. And the next several years is going to be so exciting and watching new industry leaders emerge, watching companies transform, creating new forms of human potential within organizations. So that's why I'm really excited about where we're headed.
One of the first areas we really focused on was AI infrastructure. And the way to think of that is really, what are all the important enabling technologies that you need to have a successful AI footprint in the market? One is you need to have the actual foundational models. The next thing you need to have is really access to data centers. You need to have access to real estate. You have access to chips, et cetera. And all of those things are enabling infrastructure that you need to have before you even think about having a product. And we think as a firm that we have an incredible opportunity to really invest across all aspects of that value chain as you're looking to deliver AI at scale.
When we looked at the AI space originally, one needs to be wary in our industry of the hype cycles in certain spaces. That being said, there are incredibly important platform shifts that we've all experienced throughout our careers. For me, it goes back to when we went from mainframe to desktop. We then went from desktop to mobile, then the advent of the internet. And similarly, we think these Gen AI models, LLM models, are another paradigm shift that's going to create huge new addressable markets, disrupt other markets, but just is this area that is here for real. All these tech paradigm shifts go through that same cycle where people believe in the prospects of them. It gets hyped up a little bit too much. People get disillusioned, but we firmly believe Gen AI is one of these that is here to stay and will come out the other side.
So our LLM investments that we've made recently fall under our AI infrastructure sort of meta theme. And you can think about that as a picks and shovels way to play the adoption and penetration of AI technologies. So once we felt like we had enough conviction around investing in the LLM space, we did our market work and came to the conclusion that there was not going to be just one winner in the space. And in fact, the market is segmented between consumers, enterprises, and the physical world. And what we wanted to do is identify and invest in the leader in each of those areas.
These companies just need a tremendous amount of money. There's never been a demand that's as insatiable as this. And so it's a heavily supply constrained market. Anthropic is literally the fastest growing company to $5 billion revenue in history. And so there's a huge opportunity for private capital to step in and finance these companies. And it's not just an equity thing. And this is where if you think about where we're trying to take the firm, this is one of the things that's so exciting is like, yes, we made an equity investment in Anthropic. They're going to eventually need to build their own data centers. And so we're thinking about real estate plays. On top of that, energy costs are going up because these data centers are consuming so much energy. Interesting companies that do things like co-locate solar power at data centers are becoming more relevant. And so just when you spool all this stuff together, I mean, there's no firm in the world better positioned than TPG to do this.
AI is going to touch a lot of different aspects of software. One of the areas we're very excited about is vertical AI and the ability to really tailor workflows for specific verticals and users and drive a whole lot of productivity. AI is going to be hugely TAM expanding for many of these solutions. Things that historically are more adjacent to workflows that we were already addressing with our software will come into scope with AI, and there'll be a lot more automation opportunity for customers. That'll drive a lot more efficiency, and in many areas that will be critical for customers to remain competitive and kind of can keep scaling their businesses.
What's interesting about vertical AI is a lot of these companies have very unique data that's very specific to their vertical. So if you're Toast and you power all the restaurants in the world and all of us use it every day, they're getting tons of data that they can use that the horizontal AI companies are going to have. So that we think is pretty defensible. Service Titan, very similarly, they power all the plumbing and electrical and home services shops. They've got data that only they have that they can use for their AI. And so I think it's kind of in this gold rush. How do you find the pockets of defensible value? And vertical AI feels like a reasonable one.
One of the things that we look for in companies as we're looking for platforms to invest in around AI is companies that have core system of record or in deeply embedded workflow. So they have a strong, sticky customer base where we can then build AI tools on top of that workflow software and on top of that data. So for example, our recent investment in Elite, which is a core vertical market ERP software serving the legal and accountant industry, is that core system of record. And what we were able to do very quickly, because we have an entrenched customer base, is deliver AI solutions built on top of our existing technologies and rapidly deploy them out into market much more quickly than a new entrant could have, because we have those existing customer relationships.
Our original investment in Nextech in many ways grew out of our investment experience with WellSky, which is also an electronic medical record and practice management solution. They've made a lot of progress on their AI products, and really the benefit there is a lot more clinician productivity in terms of being able to focus on patients when they're meeting with folks versus typing into the electronic medical record. We can now deal with a lot of that ourselves on the back end via an ambient listening and scribe solution, and think there's a lot more there in terms of how do we automate workflow to make the doctor's life easier and improve the patient experience. And so we're very excited about the AI opportunity ahead of that business.
With any infrastructure shift comes the security and threat landscape behind it. And we think this is a big market opportunity that's going to be ripe for security investing over time.
What we're seeing in that space is really two things. One is AI for security, the other is security for AI. And the basic idea within AI for security is how do we have our existing portfolio companies like Tanium or Everflux, how do they use these next generation technologies and provide a better, more complete solution to their customers that wasn't previously possible using existing software technologies? The other area we're focused on is security for AI. So in security for AI, this is the newest threat vector that we're seeing across the space. We're seeing tons of attacks that are happening. They're using these next generation technologies to automate and deliver attacks that weren't previously possible. What that means is that there's a new attack vector out there that these companies have to be able to go and solve. And our next area that we're really focused on are what are the companies that are going to be well positioned to really solve these things at scale for our underlying customers.
We're very excited to continue to partner with EverFox, which is a leading cybersecurity provider, predominantly serving the United States government and our allies in defense and intelligence. And this is an area where I think we have seen and will continue to see a great deal of innovation. One thing that EverFox has been able to do is really partner with the leading next generation defense and defense technology companies to build software and AI-first applications to protect the US and our allies. If anything, I think we're leaning really further into cybersecurity because we think the demand and we think the need for great security companies is only going to continue to increase.
This is sort of an amazing watershed moment as we think about the role that AI is playing in our lives today. As we think about translating that from the consumer realm to the services realm, there are a number of key areas that we are spending time around as a firm. So when we say AI transformations, what do we mean by that? Our services transformation approach really has been predicated on a couple of different areas. Typically, what we mean by that is we are looking for leading services companies that are in growing markets where we think we can improve and change the cost structure in a pretty dramatic way of their delivery model. And that actually leads to a number of knock-on effects to a positive, where it allows them to be able to take market share because the price may change in the context of their delivery model. But number two, also allows them to invest further and play offense with some of their agentic tools that they're actually developing. And that's really kind of the holy grail that we're spending time around. We, as the enterprise, can capture more value on behalf of the interaction between the client and the actual deliverer of the product. As we think about those roles, it's embedded into everything that we talk about, even within our investment committee. We have a standard IRC template now that we spend time talking about the components of AI and elements of how this business model may be positively or perhaps even negatively impacted by AI over time. And so those areas where we feel like it will be a beneficiary are areas where we tend to lean in much more wholly. From our perspective, it's happened first within our portfolio, which we're now seeing really tangible results of. G&A Partners is a good example of that, by driving incremental AI investments and automation-related investments as we think about the delivery model itself and how they interact with their clients.
I think there's been a lot of focus on AI in the last 2 or 3 years, really since the introduction of ChatGPT in 2022. But TPG's track record in AI goes back many years. It's been a thematic area of focus for us because we've seen the transformative power of the technology to make companies more efficient and effective. The way our portfolio growth and operations teams works is shoulder to shoulder with our investment teams from very early on in thematic research and in diligence and in our underwriting, setting up the opportunity for us to recruit and partner with A+ management teams, capitalize on market tailwinds, and bring the best of the TPG platform to bear for the benefit of these companies.
The reason it's exciting in private equity, and TPG in particular, is we have the ability to bring these technologies and do what's called applied AI, where we bring the science of it to our companies, and we can help implement those technologies and really have a meaningful impact on both the growth of those companies and also on the bottom line. First, we're showing everybody what are the best practices. AI is a little bit of an overlay in the sense that there isn't an AI role per se, but there's AI in sales, there's AI in marketing, there's AI in product development, there's AI in a lot of different functions. So part of what I do is I help those other teams that we have within TPG use AI in their own playbooks. Just to give a few examples, I mean, we have a lot of focus at TPG on carve-outs. A pretty significant portion of our portfolio is carve-outs. And when you have a carve-out, you're rebuilding systems almost from scratch, because you're carving out the company and you're saying, which HR system should we use? Which CRM should we use?
how should we run our back office? So you have a really great opportunity to do things at scale and choose an AI first approach. So even though it's not a new company per se, it's now potentially almost an AI first company. So that offers a really great opportunity for us to have really meaningful impact.
I think adopting AI in a responsible manner is really critical to the success of any AI project. When we think about responsible AI, we think about AI first that's secure, that is protecting data privacy and the data of our companies. Second of all is trusted, so it's tested, it's accurate, it's compliant. Third is that it's transparent. When we're making decisions with AI, we want to be able to see, why did AI make a certain decision, and can we train it a different way? And so when we think about this adoption of AI, we have to look at it through a responsible lens, not just because it's ethical, but also because it's going to allow us to have the impact that we want and drive the results we want, but do so in a way that also manages risk appropriately.
What we're doing in operations in TPG is we're trying to take those examples where we have companies that are transforming very rapidly and bring that to the rest of the portfolio. One example that I'm really excited about is at Lyric. Lyric is a company that produces content which is used by healthcare providers to determine, among other things, how much they should pay for a particular procedure. And they crawl the web and they look at a lot of regulatory information in order to pull out those policies together and have experts review that content. They have gone from approximately 1 policy a week to 10 policies per day using AI models. And they still have the same quality. In fact, their quality is improving, and the same number of experts, but their throughput has improved at a dramatic pace, and it's just continuing to grow. Another example in the portfolio is at Boomi. So Boomi is a software company that creates agents, and they've built out an agentic framework, which they're now selling to their customers, and they're also using that internally. So they've seen dramatic improvement internally using their own agents in a change management program, while they're also enabling their customers to build agents on top of any model that the customer wants to use. So we have some companies that are really at the leading edge of both implementing AI and also, using AI internally, but also selling it to customers.
One of the key parts that every organization needs to tackle is how to use AI to transform yourself in your own operations. I think a real fundamental belief that I have, and that's also reflected in TPG's approach, is that the best path to success with AI is a human plus machine approach, to look at how you combine the best of the best AI capabilities and leading AI capabilities with the best of human capabilities to create superior and great business outcomes. And so really starting from the outset with a human plus machine approach and looking at the way work's done and redesigning the work to be a combination of human and agentic AI capabilities is really the path to success in the future.
We're very fortunate in that we started this journey with AI some time ago, actually in 2019. We set up a team called Lab 39 internally, which is a group of data analysts and scientists. We knew we had sort of this wonderful set of data that we were sitting on, and we didn't have the power to really harness it. And then our sort of next step was, well, how do we interrogate that data? And we created a tool called Samantha. And Samantha is essentially our agentic platform, which is like an orchestrator that allows us to interrogate the data. And we consider it hybrid because it also leverages best-in-class tools externally like Grok, OpenAI, Copilot, and others. And so that allows our teams to be able to essentially access a lot of information so that they can do research, they can query information, they can compare documents, et cetera.
Our team at Lab 39 has developed a purpose-built TPG AI assistant. This is a tool that essentially will ingest investment committee documents every week and output a report for the investment committee to review that includes risks, opportunities, and net takeaways around that specific investment opportunity. It becomes a really, really interesting and powerful tool because it can normalize, look back at data over the past several years of investment memos and our own portfolio performance. Ultimately, the investment decision remains with the humans in the room. It remains with that investment committee, but it's a very, very powerful supplement to the discussion. And so for us on the investing side, it's allowing us to focus on theme identification, building relationships with great teams, finding companies to transform and actually accelerating the transformation of those businesses over time. And AI can help power each one of those steps along the way. And ultimately, it's going to make us more successful investors over time.
I think to have a strong internal AI strategy is important to just remain commercial. There's a huge demand in our firm now that people kind of see the power of AI. And we also want to make sure that we are solving problems that are accretive and really add to the value for the firm. And so we focus on things that are, number one, commercial, A, that mitigate risk, B, and are going to drive efficiency. And so this is really something that I consider a competitive advantage for TPG, and one that we continue to build on day by day.